My husband cheated on me with my sister. I discovered my husband of 8 years has been having an affair with my sister for over a year. My entire world has collapsed, and I don't know how to move forward. I never thought I'd be writing this post. I always believed that betrayal like this only happened in soap operas or to other people, never to me. But here I am, 32 years old, sitting in my car in a parking lot at 2 a.m. because I can't bear to go back to the house that no longer feels like home. Let me start from the beginning. My name is Sarah, and I've been married to my husband David for 8 years. We have 2 beautiful children together, Emma, who's 6, and little Jake, who just turned 4. I thought we had the perfect life. David works as an engineer, I'm a part-time graphic designer, and we lived in a cozy suburban home with a white picket fence, literally the American dream. My sister Lisa is 3 years younger than me. Growing up, we were incredibly close. She was my maid of honor at my wedding, and I was hers when she married her ex-husband 2 years ago. Unfortunately, her marriage didn't last, and she went through a messy divorce about 18 months ago. David and I were her support system during that difficult time. We let her stay with us for a few weeks while she got back on her feet, helped her find a new apartment, and were there for her emotionally. Looking back now, I realize that was when everything started to change, but I was too blind to see it. I was being the caring, supportive older sister I'd always been, never imagining that my kindness was creating the perfect opportunity for the 2 people I trusted most in the world to betray me. The first sign that something was wrong came about 6 months ago, but I dismissed it. David started working late more often, claiming he had important projects with tight deadlines. He'd come home exhausted, barely wanting to talk about his day. I attributed it to work stress. His company had been going through some changes, and I thought he was just trying to prove himself. Then there were the phone calls. David would get calls at odd hours, and he'd step outside to answer them. When I asked who it was, he'd say it was work or just dismiss it as unimportant. His phone, which used to be casually left around the house, suddenly never left his side. He changed his passcode, something he'd never done in our entire relationship. But the biggest red flag that I somehow managed to rationalize was his relationship with Lisa. They started texting each other more frequently. Lisa would ask David for advice about everything from car troubles to dating. She'd call him instead of me when she needed help with something. When I mentioned it seemed like they were getting pretty close, David just laughed it off, saying he was trying to be a good brother-in-law and help her get through her rough patch. I even felt guilty for having these thoughts. Here was my husband being kind and supportive to my sister during her time of need, and I was getting suspicious about it. What kind of person does that make me? I pushed those feelings down and tried to focus on being grateful that my husband and sister got along so well. The discovery came 3 weeks ago, and it was purely by accident. David had left his laptop open on the kitchen table while he went to pick up the kids from school. I was doing some work and needed to check something online quickly. When I opened the browser, I saw that his Gmail was still logged in. I wasn't intentionally snooping, but the first email in his inbox was from Lisa, and the subject line made my blood run cold. Last night was incredible, can't wait to see you again tomorrow. My hands started shaking as I clicked on it. The email thread went back over a year. Over a year of secret meetings, stolen kisses, declarations of love, and explicit details about their encounters. They had been meeting at her apartment when I thought David was working late. They had been together in our guest room when I was out running errands. They had even been texting each other during family dinners, sitting right across from me at our own dinner table. But the worst part wasn't just discovering the affair. It was reading how they talked about me. Lisa called me pathetically naive and joked about how easy it was to fool me. David agreed, saying I was too trusting for my own good and that I never questioned anything. They laughed about how I thanked David for being such a supportive brother-in-law to Lisa. They were mocking me. The 2 people I loved and trusted most in the world were not only betraying me but finding humor in how easily they could deceive me. I felt like such a fool. I spent the next hour reading through everything. There were photos they'd sent each other, intimate photos in locations I recognized. There were plans for weekend getaways that David had told me were work conferences. There were discussions about how to keep their secret, with Lisa suggesting they should be more careful because Sarah might not be as stupid as we think. The most devastating email was one from just 2 weeks prior. Lisa had written to David about how she sometimes felt guilty about what they were doing. But instead of David agreeing or suggesting they stop, he wrote back saying that I would never leave him anyway because I was too dependent and scared of being alone. He said that I was a safe choice he made when he was younger, but Lisa was his real soulmate. I printed everything. Every email, every photo, every cruel joke at my expense. Then I sat at that kitchen table and cried harder than I've ever cried in my life. Not just because my marriage was over, but because I had to accept that the sister I'd protected and supported my entire life viewed me as nothing more than an obstacle to her happiness. When David came home with the kids, I acted normal. I helped with homework, made dinner, gave baths, read bedtime stories. After the children were asleep, I calmly asked David to sit down because we needed to talk. I placed the stack of printed emails on the coffee table between us and simply said, "I know about Lisa." The color drained from his face instantly. For a moment, he tried to deny it, asking what I was talking about, but when I showed him the first email, he knew it was over. What followed was a 4-hour conversation that destroyed any remaining illusion I had about my marriage. David admitted everything. He said it started during those weeks when Lisa was staying with us. They had been talking late one night after I'd gone to bed, both had been drinking wine, and one thing led to another. He claimed it was supposed to be a one-time mistake, but they couldn't stay away from each other. He said he loved us both but in different ways. He loved me as the mother of his children and his stable partner, but he was in love with Lisa. He actually had the audacity to suggest that maybe we could work something out where he could maintain relationships with both of us. When I asked if he felt any remorse for what he'd done to our family, he said he felt bad about hurting me, but he couldn't regret falling in love. He said Lisa made him feel young and alive again, something he realized he hadn't felt in years. He blamed our marriage, saying we'd become more like roommates than lovers, and that the spark had died. I asked him to leave that night. He packed a bag and went to a hotel, promising to come back the next day to talk more and figure out arrangements for the children. I didn't sleep at all that night. I just lay in our bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering how I was going to explain to Emma and Jake why Daddy wouldn't be living with us anymore. The next morning, I called in sick to work and drove to Lisa's apartment. I needed to confront her face to face. When she opened the door and saw me standing there, she knew immediately why I'd come. But instead of showing remorse or trying to apologize, she became defensive. She said that David had been unhappy for years and that I was selfish for trying to keep him in a marriage where he wasn't fulfilled. She claimed that their love was real and that I should be mature enough to step aside for David's happiness. She actually said that if I truly loved him, I would want him to be with someone who made him happy. When I brought up our family, our children, and our history, she said that sometimes people outgrow their circumstances. She said David married me when he was young and didn't know what he really wanted, but now he'd found his true partner. She suggested that I should be grateful they waited until the kids were old enough to handle the transition better. I asked her if she felt any guilt about destroying her sister's marriage and breaking up her niece and nephew's family. She said that she hadn't set out to hurt anyone, but she couldn't control who she fell in love with. She said that if our marriage had been strong, David never would have been available to fall for someone else. That's when I lost it. I told her exactly what I thought of her and her great love story. I told her that she was a selfish, narcissistic person who had always been jealous of what I had and couldn't stand to see me happy. I reminded her of all the times I'd supported her, helped her, been there for her, and asked how she could repay that kindness by sleeping with my husband. Her response was the final nail in the coffin of our relationship. She said that I'd always acted superior to her, always been the perfect sister with the perfect life, and that it felt good to finally have something that I wanted. She said David had told her that he'd wished he'd met her first, before he'd gotten trapped in marriage and parenthood with me. I left her apartment that day knowing that I hadn't just lost a husband, I'd lost a sister too. The person I'd grown up with, shared secrets with, and loved unconditionally had deliberately set out to destroy my life and felt justified in doing it. The past 3 weeks have been a blur of lawyer consultations, difficult conversations with my children, and trying to figure out how to rebuild my life from scratch. David has been staying with Lisa, which has made the situation even more painful for Emma and Jake. They keep asking when Daddy is coming home, and I don't know how to explain that he's chosen to build a new life with someone else. My parents are devastated. They feel like they've lost both daughters, one to betrayal and one to shame. Lisa hasn't spoken to them since I told them what happened. My mom keeps crying and asking where she went wrong in raising us. My dad wants to confront David, but I've asked him not to because it won't change anything and will only make things harder for the kids. I've started therapy to help me process everything that's happened and to learn how to co-parent with someone who broke my trust so completely. My therapist says that what I'm experiencing is a form of complex grief. I'm not just mourning the end of my marriage, but the loss of my identity as a wife, my relationship with my sister, and my faith in my own judgment. The hardest part is the self-doubt. I keep replaying every moment from the past year, looking for signs I should have seen. I wonder if I was really as naive as they said, or if I was just choosing to trust the people I loved. I question whether I was a good enough wife, if I somehow pushed David away, or if I failed my marriage in ways I don't even understand. But I'm also starting to feel angry, which my therapist says is healthy. I'm angry that David didn't have the courage to talk to me about his feelings before seeking comfort elsewhere. I'm angry that Lisa felt entitled to pursue a married man, especially one married to her own sister. I'm angry that they made decisions about my life and my children's lives without giving me a chance to fight for my marriage. I've filed for divorce and I'm asking for primary custody of the children. David can have his weekends and holidays, but Emma and Jake need stability, and they need to know that at least one of their parents will always put their needs first. I'm also asking for alimony and child support because I gave up career advancement opportunities to support his career and raise our children. Lisa and David are still together, and from what I hear through mutual friends, they're quite happy. They've moved in together and are talking about marriage. Part of me wonders if they'll last, or if the excitement of their forbidden romance will fade once it becomes ordinary and everyday. But mostly, I try not to think about them at all. I'm focusing on rebuilding my life. I've started freelancing more to build up my client base and income. I'm looking into going back to school to get my master's degree in graphic design. I've reconnected with friends I'd lost touch with over the years, and I'm slowly learning who I am outside of being David's wife and Lisa's sister. The children are adjusting better than I expected. Emma has asked some hard questions about why Daddy lives with Aunt Lisa now, and I've tried to give her age-appropriate answers about how sometimes adults make mistakes that hurt families. Jake is younger and seems to accept the new arrangement more easily, though he still asks when we're all going to live together again. I've had to cut contact with Lisa completely, which means the children have essentially lost their aunt as well as their nuclear family. That breaks my heart, but I can't have someone in my life or my children's lives who showed such complete disregard for our well-being. My parents have been supportive of this decision, though I know it hurts them too. Some days are harder than others. Some days I wake up and for a split second forget that everything has changed, and then reality crashes back. Some days I feel strong and optimistic about the future. Some days I feel angry and want revenge. Some days I just feel profoundly sad for what we've all lost. I've learned a lot about myself through this experience. I've learned that I'm stronger than I thought I was. I've learned that trust, once broken, is almost impossible to fully repair. I've learned that sometimes the people we love most are capable of hurting us in ways we never imagined possible. I've also learned that betrayal like this doesn't just hurt the betrayed partner, it damages children, parents, extended family, and friend groups. David and Lisa's decision to pursue their relationship has created ripple effects that will last for years. Family gatherings will never be the same. Holidays will be complicated. Future milestones like graduations and weddings will require careful navigation. But I've also learned that life goes on. That people are capable of rebuilding after devastating losses. That children are resilient and adaptable. That there are good people in the world who will support you through your darkest times without judgment or expectation. I'm not the same person I was 6 months ago. That woman was more naive, more trusting, more dependent on others for her sense of self-worth. The woman I'm becoming is more cautious but also more self-reliant. More aware of red flags but also more confident in her own judgment. More protective of her heart but also more open to genuine connections with people who earn her trust. To anyone reading this who might be going through something similar, I want you to know that you're not alone. The pain you're feeling is valid and real. The betrayal you've experienced is not your fault. You deserve better than people who would choose their own selfish desires over your well-being and your family's stability. Don't let anyone tell you that you should forgive quickly or get over it for the sake of others. Take the time you need to process what happened and decide what's best for you and your children. Don't let anyone minimize the impact of betrayal by saying that these things happen or that you should focus on moving forward instead of dwelling on the past. What happened to me wasn't just about two people falling in love. It was about two people making deliberate choices to deceive, manipulate, and hurt someone who loved and trusted them. It was about two people prioritizing their own happiness over the well-being of children who depended on them for stability and security. I don't know what the future holds. I don't know if I'll ever be able to fully trust a romantic partner again. I don't know if David and Lisa will last or if they'll eventually realize that a relationship built on betrayal isn't sustainable. I don't know if my children will struggle with abandonment issues or trust problems as they grow up. But I do know that I'm going to be okay. I'm going to provide a stable, loving home for my children. I'm going to rebuild my career and my independence. I'm going to surround myself with people who value honesty and loyalty. I'm going to teach my children that they deserve relationships built on respect and trust. And maybe someday, when the pain isn't so fresh and the anger has faded, I'll be grateful that this happened before I wasted any more years of my life with people who didn't truly value what we had. Maybe someday I'll look back and realize that their betrayal was actually a gift, the push I needed to become the person I was always meant to be. For now, I'm taking things one day at a time, focusing on what I can control, and trying to find moments of joy and hope in the midst of all this chaos. It's not the life I planned, but it's the life I have, and I'm determined to make it a good one. Thank you for reading this and for any advice or support you might offer. Sometimes it helps just to know that someone else has heard your story and understands that the pain is real. I never thought I'd be the person writing a post like this, but here I am, and somehow, I'm going to be okay. This story has received over 15,000 upvotes and more than 3,000 comments on Reddit. The overwhelming response has been supportive, with many users sharing their own experiences of betrayal and offering words of encouragement to Sarah. What makes this story particularly heartbreaking is the double betrayal, not just from a spouse, but from a family member who should have been a source of support. The cruelty of their private conversations, mocking Sarah's trust and naivety, adds another layer of psychological damage to an already devastating situation. Many commenters praised Sarah for her strength in handling the situation with dignity, particularly in how she's protecting her children while processing her own trauma. Others shared similar stories of family betrayals, creating a supportive community for people who have experienced this specific type of devastating loss. This story raises important questions about trust, family loyalty, and the ripple effects of selfish decisions. It also highlights the importance of therapy and support systems when dealing with complex trauma and grief. Sarah posted an update 3 months later, reporting that she was doing better, had started dating casually, and that her children were adjusting well to their new normal. She mentioned that David and Lisa had broken up, with David attempting to reconcile, but that she had moved on and felt grateful for her new life. Stories like this remind us that while betrayal can be devastating, human resilience is remarkable. They also serve as cautionary tales about the importance of making ethical choices and considering the far-reaching consequences of our actions on the people we claim to love. What do you think about this story? Have you ever experienced betrayal on this level? How would you have handled the situation? Let us know in the comments below. And remember, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss our latest Reddit stories. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video where we'll be covering another incredible story from the depths of Reddit. Until then, take care of yourselves and remember, you're stronger than you know.